Well, good morning and welcome to Investigate Everything. Sorry this was so delayed. I've just been miserably depressed over everything that's going on in the world. I am your host, Brian O'Shea. This is episode 251111. And so you guys know, the reason I name my episodes that way is so you know which date I did them on. So this one was supposed to go out on the 11th. Quick update in my life. Happy birthday to my wife, Naomi Wolf. She had her birthday yesterday. Unfortunately, we couldn't be together. She was with her daughter looking at some real estate. That's cool. But I put out a nice message to her, and I'll put out another one. Love you, Naomi Wolf. All right. The Reds are coming. Okay. The Reds are coming. And what can you do? um, The Democrat Socialists of America, or the DSA, they've been around since the 80s. Many of you have heard Democratic Socialist. I used to hear, or socialism. I used to hear that all the time, and I would laugh. I'm like, it sounds like an oxymoron to me. So, and very few really took that term seriously. So let me try to gather my thoughts. I've been a little under the weather. Okay, but so the Democrat Socialists of America, for those that don't know, that's the party that Mamdani in New York belongs to, who backed him pretty much. They are not Democrats. They can trace their roots back to the 1920s. And they've gotten people in Congress. That's where the squad came from. But what they really do is they start at the local council level, school board level. And now they've taken control of the country's most powerful city, New York. Before we get to the how can we stop them, I think we need to discuss what can we learn from them in order to mobilize true Americans to save this country from slipping into communism by way of groups like the Democratic Socialists of America. The communists cannot defeat America. They never have. But they won't have to so long as we continue down our current trajectory, which is basically our trajectory of defeating ourselves. So I'll leave it there. Now, before I get started, I just want to I'll do the ads halfway through. Okay. So why did I want to talk about this? Everyone's talking about the DSA. I mean the DCA, and no, the DSA, Democratic Socialists, not communists, but they are communists. And really, the only difference between socialism and communism is, overall, this is really simplifying, but socialism is seizing the means of production. Okay, um, when by the people. Now, when that becomes government, when socialism moves into a government, they take over a government, and then the government takes over everything. It becomes communism. All right. So, what have we seen with Mamdani? Let's talk about that. That's the big topic right now. Well, we've seen a lot. We've seen a lot of things like let's talk about the rent stabilization. Okay. So, the rent stabilization is an interesting topic because he wants to stabilize rents or freeze rents in rent stabilized units. What does that mean? Well, rent stabilization has been around for a long time in New York, probably before the 40s, I think, or around the 40s. And really, what that does, it keeps homes affordable for people. Now, by freezing rent, that will keep landlords from being able to adjust rent to keep up with inflation. So, what does that mean? That means landlords will stop um, upgrading their buildings, maintaining their units, that sort of thing. And by landlords, I don't want you to think of like Joe Pesci in the Super whatever that movie was. They're out there, those kind of sketchy landlords. But there's a lot of people that are just they own an additional home, or they made some money on a real estate sale and they bought an extra apartment in New York so they can make a little more money, probably to pay their new mortgage, because they are very expensive here. Now, why are they expensive here? Well, it's not Donald Trump's fault. It's not even Joe Biden's fault. They're expensive here because there's so many additional taxes. that are levied against New Yorkers. Um, against New Yorkers, and I mean taxes galore. Okay, so for instance, during the illegal alien invasion propagated by Joe Biden, all of a sudden there were new taxes in New York City for homeowners, but they were labeled as like green tax or electric vehicle tax, that sort of thing. Okay, so they're already expensive. If he wants to solve the affordability crisis in New York, well, start by addressing the problems that are already here. Okay. One of those is there's too many taxes. You pay for everything. You want to address the affordability crisis in New York? I don't know. Make parking free. Because for instance, I'm here a week longer than I wanted to be. I'm currently in Brooklyn, and I- I'll probably end up paying $400 to get my car out of the garage for 5, 6 days of parking. You want to park on the street at the meter? Oh yeah, that's fine. But you got to move it like every 12 hours because they do street sweeping, which you rarely see, but they claim they do it. So you got to move your car during certain times. And even if you get a good meter, like in the West Village, if you park your car all day at a meter, it's probably going to run you about close to 20 something bucks. Okay. You do that over the course of 365 days. So there's a great way to make living here more affordable. But that's beside the point. So what is the real scam here? And make no mistake, it's a scam. All right. There's these things called zombie apartments. What is a zombie apartment? A zombie apartment is a unit that has been left to crumble because the landlord can't afford to do the maintenance because the landlord can't charge enough rent to keep up with the maintenance costs. Okay. So they just let them kind of go derelict. So if the unit falls beneath code, well, now that landlord or that owner, they have to bring it up. Let's say, for instance, there's an infestation. Well, they have to fix that. Now they're even more in the red. So what's that going to force them to do? It's going to force them to sell, and it's going to force them to sell to whomever is in place and allowed to by the city buy those places. Now, I would just take a guess that Mamdani and his Democratic Socialists probably have some people lined up, even though they don't believe in ownership. Okay, now that's how I see that. It's also a way to take over entire buildings because if you're only targeting rent stabilized units, well, that's going to affect the rest of the building. So it's not like our home in upstate New York is like a small cottage. If we get a rat problem or roach problem up there, it only affects us. But here, like in the building I'm in now, there's a unit there, a unit there, a unit there. I have fruit flies right now that were brought in from apples that we bought the other day. They're all over the place. And I literally have to like spray my garbage before I throw it down the trash chute because I don't want to plague the whole building with that. But if that happens, if you're responsible for that, or there's a leak, let's say you shut off the heat and your pipes burst, well, now you could get sued by the apartment below you, or by the landlord, or by the building owner, because you might own the apartment, or the condo, or the co-op, but you don't own the building. Okay, so there's that. So you can see where they're trying to make it impossible to have private landlords. They're trying to make it impossible to own a place to rent out, which is how a lot of New Yorkers make money. Okay. And not just rich New Yorkers. I'm talking just kind of working class. All right. So there's that. Let's talk about really quickly the bus problem, or the bus thing where he said he's going to make buses go faster. Now, that's really been talked about ad nauseum, but let's talk about it a little more. You can't go any faster in in New York City. Not because the buses don't move fast enough or don't have a fast enough engine. There's too much damn traffic. Why is there too much damn traffic? Well, part of the reason is they installed all these new bike lanes. Part of the reason is that they don't enforce um, laws on traffic on bicycles. And by bicycles, I mean these things are almost motorcycles at this point. You can buy these electric bikes that go really fast, and they go way over the governored speed limit of New York, which is 25 miles per hour. But all of these delivery people are on these electric bikes, and they're zigging, zagging, weaving in and out of traffic. I'm almost always hitting them because they don't stay in the bike lanes. They're up on the sidewalk and everything, but they're also right in traffic. But it doesn't matter because you're not moving that fast, right? Because traffic's too bad. Another reason why traffic is really bad, well, is partially because of the buses, but also the delivery trucks. They don't enforce double parking here. So if one delivery truck stops, they double park and they start unloading everything. And then everyone kind of has to squeeze through, and it's just, I don't know, maybe make delivery hours in New York City between like midnight and 6 in the morning. That would solve a huge problem. But you see, I don't think they care about solving the traffic problem. What I think the real goal of this addressing the faster buses is to eliminate cars in New York City. I know it sounds crazy, but I think that's the goal. I have nothing to back that up, but I was doing the math on this, and it just, if I were some socialist, communist, whatever, that wanted to make buses faster, the thing that's in my way are privately owned vehicles. Now you get rid of the vehicles, your buses go as fast as you want, and then people are forced to use the government owned buses. And then people can only go where the buses are running. You see the way this works? Let me tell you another thing about New York that I experienced my last visit here. It's hard to get out of the city if you don't have a car. Let me give you an example. I have a really cute dog who's sleeping over there, and he's small, but he has these really weirdly large hind legs, like really tall. So I can't find a carrier that's small, that's large enough to fit those giant Italian water dog type hind legs. So that means I can't get on a bus or a train to get out of the city because I was trying to get back to Salem, Massachusetts. So what did I do? I said, well, my car's in Salem. I guess I got to go rent a car. So to do that, I had to go out to near Newark Airport because there's just not a lot of affordable car rentals in the city, if any at all. So that's like a $80 taxi ride right there. Okay. Then I had to rent a car. That's $300. I got a good deal. Then I have to drive. Okay. So imagine people with kids. This is a dog, just, I'm not whining about it. It is what it is. But imagine people with kids. You can't really leave the city if you don't have money. Like if I didn't have an extra $600, a lot of people don't. I didn't really either. I put it on my credit card, but let's say I have bad credit. I don't have a credit card. Well, guess what? You're stuck. You ain't going anywhere. Okay. So I want people to think about that. Now, what's that do? It forces people to be in the city. So now let's say they eliminate cars and they own the buses. The government does. They do now anyways, the MTA. Okay. That's a lot of control over people. The other thing is they want to seize the grocery stores. Now I don't see that happening, but let's just say they do. Okay, so now you can control what people eat. You can control where they can go, right? This is the hypothetical of no cars anymore in the city and government run grocery stores. You also have seized a lot of the buildings. So you're kind of controlling where people live. Does this sound familiar to anyone? Because that is the goal. Okay, and it's not that the government is going to actually own them, but they'll be owned by special interests that are loyal or profitable to the socialists running the city. That's how it works. And then really you have a captured working class of people that will be willing to take any job to keep their benefits coming. Because guess what? If you raise the taxes on the rich and the white neighborhoods, which Mamdani has said, even though there's really no white neighborhoods in New York, everything's pretty mixed up. And trust me, I've lived all over the city for over 2 decades. Well, that's a lot of tax income leaving the city. Okay, so how do you run all this stuff? Well, that's easy. The way it works in every communist system. Yeah, you get free rent. Yeah, you get this, but guess what? You got to work for it. Go report to the widget factory at 6 in the morning. So you see the way this is going is that way. So people with means and skills, they will leave, meaning Americans. Okay, Americans and legal immigrants. They're going to leave. Legal immigrants did not come here to be in a communist or socialist system because that's tyranny and that's what the legal immigrants escaped from. The illegal ones, I think, are here to make this happen, and I have a feeling they're the ones that'll be in these buildings. All right. So where am I going with all of this? Well, where I'm going with all of this is the plan. And how do I know this is the plan? Because all you have to do is go to the Democratic Socialists of America's website, and they say it. On November 5th, I guess that was the night of the election or the day after, I went to their website, clicked on something. I don't unfortunately have the slide in front of me because they took it down. And they had this tenant meeting. Let me see if I can call it up while I'm talking. But they had this tenant council for the DSA. And I looked at it because I was trying to find some local DSA event that I could go infiltrate. So I look at it. And really what it was they were saying we're going to go and confront some landlord a few blocks away and let them know they're bad. I don't know, but it sounded like thug harassment. It sounded like some Red Guard stuff to me. And it's 2 blocks away. So the plan is, yes, we're going to make affordable housing by literally taking it, or driving out the landlords. So in summary, not for the show, but for my opening here, this has been growing. This movement has been growing for many years, and we've all ignored it. Even I did. We were so focused on the Democrats that we didn't realize, or a lot of us didn't realize, maybe not you, but I didn't realize, oh man, you have this kind of White Walker situation growing. And what am I talking about? If you've ever seen Game of Thrones, you got the 7 kingdoms. And one of those kingdoms rules all 7. And it's kind of like a process where like they get support from the different kingdoms. So whoever has the most support becomes the head kingdom. All right. And that's usually the Lannisters, who remind me of the like better looking versions of the Clintons, or like the elite Democrats. And they're constantly at war and battle, fighting for this Game of Thrones, fighting for this throne of swords. But see, there's a new thing happening down south. You got this woman, she found some dragon eggs, and dragons were real in this world, and she hatched them, which hadn't been done in a few hundred years. And she's coming to take back her seat at the throne. That reminds me of like rogue nukes or rogue states. But then in the north, you have the real threat. Okay. The real threat are these things called the White Walkers. They're like zombies, except like intelligent, leadership led zombies. And they will take out the barbarians who are north of the wall. The wall represents like the civilized kingdom. And when they kill you, you are raised from the dead, and now you're part of the army. So you see, it has that snowball effect. That, to me, is the socialists in this country. They're going along with it because, not just because they have to, because they want to, as their new zombie state. So meanwhile, you have this growing threat in the north. They're coming. The White Walkers are coming. The people in the north, who kind of represent the working class, they're warning like the central kingdoms, hey, yo, we got these White Walkers coming, and they're not stopping, and they can't be stopped. We need help. Meanwhile, the people in the more elite cities, be it DC, whatever, these are like kind of like the major political parties. They're like, oh, we'll wait on that. We don't believe them. Or, oh, we'll wait till it's politically till we can make it more of a political opportunity for us to help fight off whatever these White Walkers are. But what all the kingdoms don't realize, except for the ones who are dealing with it, is they've already taken over. They've already taken major cities. That's like the socialists in this country. What do I mean by that? Well, the DSA candidates are everywhere. Omar Feta in Minneapolis, several council seats across the country. And then this one is shocking. Now, let me pull this up here. I'm going to share my screen here. Okay. Oh, sorry about that. Wrong screen. Sorry, guys. Let me get rid of that. All right. Let me share this. Let me try that again. And by the way, I'm on a Mac. I've never had a Mac before. Someone bought it for me, and it's I don't like it. It's really hard for me to control. There we go. All right, so here we go. Check out this headline. Cambridge City Council, this is in Massachusetts, set to welcome the youngest councilwoman ever. This is outside of Massachusetts. All right, let me read it to you because it's not the best copy. So just 19 years ago, Ayeb Al-Zubi was a child growing up in Amman, Jordan. In 2019, she arrived in Cambridge with a Harvard acceptance letter. Last week, she made history. Freshly 24, Al-Zubi is the youngest person ever elected to Cambridge City Council at a time when young leaders on the political left are asserting themselves in positions of power. What's so beautiful about being a part of a new generation of politics is we're unafraid to dream boldly, Al-Zubi said in an interview after her election victory. We're unafraid to challenge systems. Keep in mind these keywords here. Unofficial results, I'm going to skip down here. Unofficial results show she finished third in a 19-way contest on the 9-member body, one of only 2 people elected who weren't incumbents. So who is she? Well, she was raised in the Midwest, and after immigrating to the U.S. as a 5-year-old, Al-Zubi is backed by the Democratic Socialists of America, of course. Okay, this is happening all over the country, and not only in the northern states. It's happening in North Carolina. There's a ton of candidates they were running. I mean, and they're just gaining momentum. Now, here's the scary part. Okay, it does seem like this is ground zero. All right. Brooklyn seems to be their stronghold. And I'm going to show you their latest, what popped up on their website right after the election. Okay. But what I really want to talk about here is listen to this woman's words. Now, she's very happy. I've gone around to all these people in Mamdani t-shirts, you know, after the election. I saw a guy walking his dog, and I said, "Hey, Mamdani, why do you like him so much?" And they're all excited. That doesn't mean they're right. But what I am saying is the problem this country is going to have is with the younger generation, Gen Zs and millennials, and whoever comes after that. Why is that? Well, I'll tell you why that is. Because they all talk about the same thing. All these young socialists who are joining like DSA or working family parties, which is a little older, but all these, or even like Antifa or these protests, a lot of them, most of the ones I've talked to, they really don't even know the issues. They just want to belong to something. Okay. They want to have a sense of belonging. Why, especially that generation? Well, I was listening to Dad Saves America the other day. It's a podcast I stumbled upon. It's pretty good. And he had a psychiatrist on, or psychologist. And they were talking about how that generation, a couple things happened. They were born into the kidnapping scare years of the 80s and early 90s. The kidnappings of 1980, which led to Code Adam, but there was a huge scare. I remember growing up in that. So parents slowly stopped letting their kids run around without supervision. My parents did, and my generation, Gen X, we kind of knew to come home when the lights on the street went up. But not that generation. That generation always was told to find an adult. Um, don't go out without an adult. I did so to my kid. And so what does that mean? That means they're not making decisions on their own safety or who's good and who's bad without referring to mom and dad or mom or dad. Okay. The other thing with so much over-parenting or helicopter parenting, that generation was never really put in a position where they had to take independent risks and figure out a lot of problem-solving stuff on their own. They basically were robbed of play with each other. What's another thing that helped that? Devices. They were born into social media. They were born into devices. How many kids do you know that don't always have their phones glued to their face? I get it. It's hard for me not to, but they never knew anything different. Gen X was the last generation that can remember life without iPhones or life without smartphones. Why is that important? Well, because you don't learn to socialize. Think about yourself, okay? Especially like during the pandemic. And I'll talk about myself, not yourself. If I spent more than a day inside with nothing but my computer and my device, I went dark emotionally. And if I went 3 days, I started losing those perishable socializing skills. So we were out kind of isolated in the woods, just the two of us. And we had each other, but then what would happen is sometimes I'd be alone out there for a week if Naomi had to go to a thing or visit family, something like that. And I don't want to go. I'm like, I'm in my little hobbit hole. I want to stay there. I have my device. So I felt connected to the world, but it really is not real connection. And when I would get around people in the city or back in civilization, I would do things like talk too much, not let people in, not make eye contact. I didn't know how to socialize. So it makes you sad and depressed when you can't be around people. It really does. And if you haven't been around people for a while, or you know what I'm talking about, you know when you get around people, even people sometimes you don't like, there is kind of like like an energy recharge that you do get from being in a social environment. Well, these kids didn't have that. And all of a sudden, DSA comes along and it's giving them that. It's giving them community. And they're happy to be there. It's also giving them something else. On the Dad Saves America podcast, this child psychologist said, you know, what are the three things that most psychologists agree on for happiness are a sense of belonging, a sense of personal achievement. Now, with helicopter parenting, there's not a lot of personal achievement, okay, because it's everyone gets a trophy. Uh, kids are not encouraged to be entrepreneurial, most kids. Okay, so a sense of accomplishment. You see these DSA meetings online, and I encourage you to watch a few of them. But you see these DSA meetings, and everyone has a job. Everyone has a measurable job, and they all get applauded when they do it. Okay, they're part of something. And then the third part that the psychologist was talking about was so there's community, sense of belonging to community, sense of personal accomplishment or creating something. That's why you feel so good when you write an actual Substack versus writing like a few tweets. Or that's why you feel so good when you mow the lawn. I love mowing the lawn because you can see I did that. Okay. The third one is being part of something bigger than themselves. And that's what they feel like. They feel like this is my chance to make an impact on history. I don't agree with the goals of this group, but I'm telling you, they have figured out how to get a key voting block, as we've seen, and they've done it by not telling them what to do, but by bringing them in. Now, I've got to say, Charlie Kirk was really good about this, but and it was really good because you could, and that's the way they're doing it. It's like you could have local chapters, people can start a chapter. But what's happened now? Okay, Trump gets elected. I voted for him. I'm definitely a Trump supporter. But then all of a sudden, Trump gets elected. We start seeing the fracturing. And then we start seeing the gatekeepers in social media, the podcasters that were close to the inner circle. All of a sudden, they're the rule of law. Okay. Like they own the message and they can take that message anywhere they want. In my opinion, some are taking it in the right direction, a good direction, which is the fact based direction. There's a lot of people that are passing opinions off as fact. Okay. And so, what does that do to the rest of us? It makes us feel isolated. Podcasts are great to make you, if you like your podcaster, obviously you're going to listen to them and you feel like, okay, if I can take what I learned here and apply it over here to my community, that's great. We're not getting that anymore. We're getting a lot of people just telling you what to do and what's right and what's wrong, which country to hate, which country not to hate. You see it on the change in X. Okay, X was great. I miss X when it was under Jack Dorsey. I'm not going to lie to you because it felt like we had a common enemy. But now it's changed. Now we have these stupid tweets or posts that go out that say Islam's bad, or, Judaism's bad, or this person's bad. Do you agree? Yes or no? Is this person a freak? Do you agree? Yes or no? I hate those. I hate them. And now the rest of the world is jumping in on that too. Now you got the Muslim influencers saying Islam's great. Islam's good. It's just so annoying. But this yes or no thing, or stupid questions like, do you support America? Yes or no? It's like, shut the fuck up. So my point is we had a little community on X, and that seems to be under attack too. Not by a concerted effort, just by people's own egos and hubris is in my opinion, undermining these communities on X. Now, I will say there's some good spaces out there. Shout out to my friends Sassafras and Drax and Kimmy Maga and all them, and Patriot Rob. These are good spaces because they're including people in the conversation. That's what I like about them. But they're fleeting, and they're still online. Okay, they're still online, and some people spend 6 hours on those. But I'm seeing less and less of a organized thing where like, hey, I'm going to organize a local chapter and then I'm going to get national recognition. Let me give you an example of that. Here in Brooklyn, my wife was helping the candidates here in our area run for council seats. These are Republicans. And so they're working with the Donald J. Trump Republican Club of the Southern. It's a long name, but it's my friend Jimmy Wagner's group, and he was helping run these candidates. I heard it from several people, I won't name their names, that they made multiple attempts to reach out to the young Republicans, which is the national organization up there in Manhattan. Never got a response. They got no support, nothing. See, that doesn't happen with these socialists. You reach out for support, they send you 50 people and a bunch of signs and money. And yeah, the money's coming from somewhere, but you could go there 990, it's like $800,000. But their currency is they've got people who are willing to go out on for days and days and days with no pay, because not all these protesters get paid. And not all of them are protesting. They're littering the streets with signage. They are knocking on doors, they're calling you, and this is how they win. Because you know who didn't knock on anyone's doors here, except for these local candidates? Republicans. You know who wasn't papering the streets? Republicans. And anyone that says, oh, they probably tore them down. No, they didn't. Because I walk the streets every day. You saw in the trailer, that's my footage. I've seen one Republican sign. I've had no outreach. The candidates here had no outreach from the national Republicans. None. Everyone complains and yells about this and that and how evil socialism is, but they're not doing anything to stop it. They're not reaching out to the working class millennials. I know one of my kids is a working class millennial, and she told me, she's like, you know what, Dad, I've lived in Brooklyn for a long time. She said, I have never had anyone reach out to me, cold call, anything. She goes, the only thing I've gotten was, a couple stupid texts from the Democrats because, she used to vote Democrat. And but then all of a sudden these socialists come, and now not only are they knocking on our door, they're saying, "Hey, you want to come to this coffee thing? Hey, can we come to your party?" Oh, that's great. That's how they're getting them. So what's my point? My point is they're that's how they are getting these populations. Yes, was there corruption in the vote? Absolutely. Absolutely. But there was also a very large number of people who voted the way they voted because there was no messaging from most of the other candidates, none. Okay, on the streets, that is. Forget about what you see online. What's here in New York City, a lot of people they're not on Twitter. If anything, the millennials are at best are on Instagram. Okay, but they're on the streets. People here live in small places, so they don't stay inside all day. They're on the streets, they're going to the clubs, they're walking down the streets, and all along the streets, like you saw in that video, is nothing but propaganda for mainly the socialists. And not only that, the mailers, everything. You can't go to the hardware store without someone talking local politics. And the issues are very real here for affordability. I don't think you should live in the city if you can't afford it personally, because I come from that generation that says, well, if I can't afford it, I'll get 2 jobs or I'll create a business. But the point is, there's a lot of people born into the city that can't just leave. Okay, they can't get jobs, and that's the thing. So no one's, we like to say, oh, they're stupid for voting for Mamdani, and maybe they are. But you know what? Whether he's full of it or not, I think he is full of it. He addressed the concerns that they put out. And until we do that, it's not going to matter. And why does New York City matter? It matters the same reason Chicago does, the same reason DC does, the same reason LA does. These are the vital organs of our country. These are the ports. Okay. These are the access cities, not Chicago, but to the oceans. Chicago's access to the Great Lakes. And as we know, China pretty much owns Canada. So it's almost like that's the last line of defense. That's the northern wall in Game of Thrones, is those Great Lakes. And that's a story for another day. So my point is, when I said in the title, what we can learn from them, we learn that. Okay. But what are we doing right now on the conservative side? We're spending hours and days talking about, who's the assassin of this person, who's the assassin, Israel's bad. Never mind that we're still giving 17 billion a year to freaking Ukraine, according to the numbers. But like all of a sudden, weirdly, Israel's the problem. Well, look, I'm going to challenge that right now. We're the problem. We are the problem. Mamdani, he's a problem, but he's a problem that we allowed to happen because we're not doing that. I've gone to CPAC conferences down in DC. They're fun, but you don't see the same type of stands. What you see is kind of like a legacy guard of influencers. You don't see a lot of, except for Charlie Kirk, you don't see a lot of, encouragement to get people to start not only clubs, not only groups, but political parties. DSA is an actual political party. Working Families Party is an actual political party. And yes, they're socialists, but that gets them on the ballot more than once. They're playing the system. We as conservatives have got to do this, and we have got to stop wasting time on things that just don't matter. And I'm sorry, this figuring out who did this and who did that, yeah, it's important. But what's more important is what's happening now. Guys, we lost New York City to a socialist, and not a good one. And we're kind of going to lose it to a whole different form, a whole different way of life. that being radical Islam. Okay. Because one of the major donors to Mamdani is CARE, the Council on Arab Islamic Relations, who had backed the Muslim Brotherhood before. The FBI had to cut ties with them. So while we're spending all of our time saying, oh, Bill Gates is bad, and oh, this is happening, and this secret cabal, and blah, 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 all this nonsense, no one's focused on the actionable intelligence. Some of you are. Autumn, if you're in the audience, you know you are. My wife is. She's actually was down at the Board of Elections right after the vote. I myself as well. Actionable intelligence, because let me tell you something. You might get to the end of whatever whodunit thing you're working on, okay? And then you're going to leave your apartment and you're going to be like, oh, there's no cars and I don't have money to get on a bus because money's been banned and I can't get out of the city. Well, great, you solved the case, but guess what? The country's gone. So that's why I kind of been in a bad mood. Like I'm watching all this bickering going back and forth between Candace Owens and people that don't agree with her, or got ahead. I should have written this down, but you see this like back and forth, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, the people that think they're wrong. And look, I don't know who's right or wrong. I don't really care. It doesn't really freaking matter in terms of saving this country. It doesn't really matter, okay, who the bad people are. Because let me tell you something, everyone is a bad person to some degree. Every country does bad things, okay? So if people think that, let's say they're going to say, oh, it's even with the scary podcast opening I did, okay? The point of that, if you watched it closely, is I'm showing that the White Walkers are targeting everyone. And they come from every country, okay? They come from every country. It's not like the Jewish cabal is controlling all the bad countries of the world to do bad things to us. That's idiocy. It's people with a different ideology and people that have been wooed into a club, a social club, a cult, if you will, call it what you want it. But they know what works, and it's working. So I would encourage everyone, instead of just going on X, wasting your time and saying, this religion's bad, this religion's good, this is a Christian nation, it's not anything else, or whatever. Study your enemy, because yelling at your enemy, you're not learning anything. All right, that's a long tirade, so I'm going to stop right there. Okay. Thanks. So I'm going to go through some comments here. And my buddy Dallas is on, and he wrote a really good essay. So if I have time, I'm going to read it because it makes a lot of sense. All right, look at this. I got all these new features. All right. Tall. There we go. Wide. Excellent. Look at that. So cool. All right. So Roscoe, welcome back. Good to see you again. Roscoe says, dear Brian, you're off a day in 1 hour, but perhaps that throws the haters off. I don't even care about haters. Haters online, doesn't matter. But I like you guys. But haters, I just find them entertaining. And half of them are, I don't even know if it's real hate anymore. I mean, honestly, Roscoe, you could go out these days if you have a podcast and say, what a nice sunny day. And someone will be like, what's wrong with the moon? You hate the moon in nighttime? It's like, what? So welcome back. Elizabeth Ann, not so sure you're defining that correctly. If you're talking about socialism and communism, I'm not. I totally oversimplified it, but that's basically, in my opinion, what it is. Okay, there's a million. The problem with socialism is a lot of people disagree on really what exactly it is, but it doesn't really matter, because when people adopt forms of socialism, they do change it to fit their own ends. Okay. And it eventually leads to a form of communism. So I'm not giving an exact definition. I don't have one in front of me. I could certainly read it, but I'm not going to. But I understand enough about these systems and how they work to know that, like, okay, they eventually become a form of communism. There's no real true communist countries in the world right now. Even China is not a purely communist country, because they do have private enterprise. Okay. That's government controlled, but it's not directly government. You see what I mean? So I wouldn't get hung up. That's a good point, Elizabeth. And like I said, I gave that disclaimer. And I'm certainly not an expert. As a matter of fact, Alex Newman, who I consider one of the best experts in this, or Josh J. Phillip, um, many others, they know a lot more about the finer points than I do. But what I know is from my own years of study, my own years in the intelligence community of looking at countries that have gone in this direction and seeing how they kind of evolve that way. And I see the same pattern in every country. It always starts with the wide-eyed optimists that get sucked in. Okay. And then before they know it, they're 40, they look 60, and they've been working for pennies their whole life. Hello, Cuba. But Elizabeth, good point. I'm not defining it correctly, but I'm oversimplifying it, and definitely, post the actual definitions, and that's fine. But what matters is anything that takes things away from you, things you've earned, is bad, in my opinion. Is that even more oversimplification? But thanks, Elizabeth, and welcome. Eric the Great. The clowns on the left and jokers to the right, on the right, work together to sacrifice Jesus Christ. Oh, here we go. I'm not even gonna. This is a manless wonderland. This is a humanity. Well, I'll put them up there because I find them entertaining. This man, I don't know what the hell he's talking about, but he's totally spamming me here. Enjoy your war on intelligence, dogs, teats, and children. Okay. I'm done with you, Eric. Let me see. Hello, corruption hunters. Hey, Dallas. So Dallas Ludlam is one of my teammates over at Consumer Diligence, and that's what we focus on, is fighting scams. Great article on Dollar General. We'll get into some of this. And Dallas, if you are listening, I actually sent you a link so you can hop on anytime. Just check your email. Adriana Leaf, Leal. Oh yeah, I know this name. That reminds me, Morgan, Bitcoin will go to the sky. I had no idea sky is deep down close to hell. Miss Sympatia movie scene. Okay, I think I know who that is. Yeah, I know who Adriana Leal is. Okay. All right. There's my cousin Ernie. You can get an e-bike that goes 52 miles per hour. Oh my God, there's so many, Ernie, there's so many freaking e-bike. There's like 5 e-bike stores within a 4-block radius. And honestly, when you're walking a dog, I keep them on a short leash because dogs are getting run over all the time. It's horrible. These things are more like motorcycles than bicycles. So welcome back, Ernie. Yeah, I have one for off-road with big tires. It could go 40 miles per hour. Yeah, I've got a Yamaha pedal assist. I could get up to like 35 miles per hour. Mine's off-road, but yeah. They're fun, especially when you have automated buses being driven by AI. Oh my God, don't even get me started. They're almost there. 15-minute cities. Ernie, you're right. That's what I was talking about, locking people in. It's a 15-minute city concept. Everything you need is right here. You can't leave. Okay. So when people don't leave the city, that leaves a lot of land for people to snatch up, and people are snatching it up. Okay. And what's important about land? Where does your food come from? So if you control that land, you control the food of a country. Okay. Pandemic comes, you can't leave the city, can't get food, you are stuck, buddy. It's true. I mean, and look what happened in China. They welded people into their houses, Dallas. Welded them. They found people that died like weeks ago because they starved to death. And it's, in the cities, there's a lot of food deserts. Like if you're in the wrong part of the city, like we used to have a place up in the Bronx before the pandemic, you could not find any decent food for quite some ways. Or parts of like southeast DC, it's like the bad part of town. Okay, you couldn't find. You could find like a C shop or convenience store, but you just simply couldn't find good place to shop for food without having to get on public transportation or get a taxi, and that's a problem, like a big problem. Okay, Steve Ladner. NYC will look like a Mad Max movie within the next few years. Steve, I got to be honest with you. I was out last night, and the mopeds and all these people, they're already putting the Tron lights on their e-bikes and everything. It already looks like a Mad Max movie. There's parts of the city that look like a Mad Max movie beyond belief, and have for some time actually. And that's in every city that I've been at. So good point, though. Good point. And if the lawlessness is brought in and institutionalized the way Mandami is talking about it, I think it'll be worse than under the Biden administration. It'll just make it unlivable, which then makes it poachable for the special interests that want it, that want our most powerful city. All right, the governor already said she won't allow a tax hike. Yeah, Dallas, she says a lot, but if you know Hochul, talk is cheap. She said she wouldn't endorse Mondami either. I'm sorry, I keep mispronouncing his name, but honestly, I think it's kind of anyways. But then she endorsed him, and you know what happened? He didn't endorse her back. You know why? Because there's a schism right now because she's not a democratic socialist. He did not endorse her back. And if you look at what's happening in the Democratic Party, they've got a problem because the DSA wants to unseat them. Okay. And you'll see what I mean in just a second here. It's always about controlling and enriching themselves and friends. Absolutely. There's really no true communism. Like if you look at like the Central Committee in the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, they're all living large. Like Xi Jinping, the chairman for life of the CCP, his father's gravesite is the size of a small town. I don't know how that is an equitable outcome for his people with all the money that comes in. So yeah, everything is always about control so that people at the top can enrich themselves. You're right. A perfect analogy. Thank. Winter is coming. Oh, you talking about Game of Thrones. It's so much like that. That's what I was thinking when I was watching that show. I was like, it's like Game of Thrones. All right, now the inner nerd comes out. Hey, there's nothing nerdy about Game of Thrones, man. That's the offshoots suck, but the series itself was pretty good. I don't watch that kind of stuff, but yeah, when I saw it, I watched one episode. I was hooked. Unfortunately, I'm all nerd. Dallas, you're not a nerd. All right, COVID isolated them, yeah. So talk about the young people. Definitely isolated them and made it worse. Guns, cigars, and bourbon is all you need. I need a little more than guns, cigars, and bourbon. I really do. I tried that for a little while during the pandemic, and yeah, I was in a real dark place. But Dallas says, "Amen, Ernest." Guys, we should honestly do a bourbon podcast sometime. I think there's only one out there. All right, so I think I'm just gonna kind of speed to the end. And we see, forgot socialism, where everyone's equal, equally broke, equally. It's so true. It never works. And the people running it, they're just profiting off it every single time. Have you ever seen a poor dictator? And most dictators come out of things that started as socialism. Have you ever seen a poor dictator? They're poor when they get killed or they get thrown in jail, but no. Need to get an old truck, carburetor points can't be hacked. You know, Ernie, it's interesting you say that. We know a mechanic up in northern New York. He's made a fleet of electronic-free cars. Pretty cool. And we made very good friends with them. Okay, so let me take a quick break here. I want to thank our sponsors really quickly. So I did not feel good today when I woke up. And so what I did is I got my, it's kind of fun in this households that may have. We have all the products that we promote, and we promote them because, you know, we get, it's a affiliate sponsorship. So like you buy it, we get a percentage, very small percentage. I don't get anything, but you know, Daily Clout does. And but what's really cool is that trying to find it here. We have this new sponsor. Hopefully I put it in the banner. If not, yeah, there it is. So we have the new sponsor, Kimchi One from Brightcore. Now, I didn't know so much about kimchi. I just like it because I was in the Army, and most Army people, you know, were around Korean food a lot because there's a lot of Korean communities around Army bases, a lot of Japanese communities around Marine bases. Ernie, you were in the Navy. I'm not sure what type of communities are dominant around Navy bases, but probably, I guess, Japanese communities. We have a lot of Korean communities. And so kimchi basically has a lot of benefits. I had no idea. I just like the way it tastes. But for those that don't, Kimchi One is a really, really good thing to add to your morning routine. So kimchi one has long been known as the kimchi has long been known as the Eastern fountain of youth. Um, and Western science has recently confirmed its incredible benefits. Kimchi one, just right there. Sorry, my screen's not mirrored, but you can see it. Helps slow aging of cells, boosts immunity, and supports gut health. Very important. That's I'll tell you about my journey down that road. Derived from cabbage, kimchi provides the body with nutrients that can only be generated through the process of fermentation. Anti-aging properties, immunity boosting, supports gut health. Kimchi one from Brightcore. Health starts in the gut. This is true. Get 25% off. Use the code WOLF at mybrightcore.com/wolf or call 888-571-4996. Kimchi one. This is part of my morning routine now. I had taken one of these. I was having trouble getting myself going today, and it does boost you. And the gut health thing is really important. I started the kimchi one, and then Naomi begged me to get on a cleanse, as she calls it. So I did. And I got to say, at first I felt really sick, as she says, because it's killing parasites that are like living inside of you. I'm like, oh. And then, honestly, by the second day, I had more energy than I've had in years, like a lot of energy. Well, what's happening with a lot of these, when you have bad gut health, that means you have parasites inside of you in a lot of cases. And you're tired all the time because you're basically sharing all the nutrients you bring in through food and everything with these parasites. So there's just not enough energy for you. You're feeding a whole little microscopic family inside of your gut. It's also the reason why you get bloated if you haven't had a good gut cleanse or good cleanse. I won't get into the details, because your body is trying to push them out. So you're getting bloated. Your cells are getting bloated. They're trying to push out these foreign invaders, if you will. So doing a cleanse and just an everyday thing like kimchi one, really just 7 days, man. I just started when I got here. I never heard of kimchi in a pill before, but yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, for me, I also eat kimchi whenever I can because I love it. But kimchi one, add it to your diet. Tell me what you think. Try it with a gut cleanse as well. But to me, it's kind of like maintenance after the gut cleanse comes from here. So again, use that code WOLF. Go to mybrightcore.com/wolf or call 888-575-4996 to get 50% off. 50% off. Okay. So there we are. Let me remove that banner. All right. I'm getting the hang of this back. All right. So what other comments just popped up here? Yeah, good point. And thank you. Welcome. Oh, hey, Sarande. We got to get you on the show. So Sarande, Diane, I know who she is. Her husband, or yes, I believe husband, Sandre, correct me if I'm wrong. He was, and I was on this space. So basically, they were moving to Massachusetts from Texas and got pulled over. And all of a sudden, he gets arrested because he had legally purchased some guns. And I think it's Arizona, right? Or New Mexico, maybe in New Mexico. You're going to have to correct me, Sarande, because it's been a few weeks. And he got arrested in Massachusetts, and he was held without a trial or bail since June because they have some sort of dangerous persons no thing that they can accuse someone. He seems like a dangerous person, so we're not going to give him bail. Okay, and he didn't try to hide them. They said, "Do you have guns?" "Yeah, I do. They're legal." He just got out. Thank God he got his bail. He's not out of the woods yet, but definitely follow Sarande, and I'll have to have you on, Sarande, and so you can tell your story again. Yeah, fiance was so. Yeah, thanks, Dallas. Was her fiance arrested? Is BS, total BS. And I didn't even know in Massachusetts, you can't even own a gun without a special permit. Like in most states, you buy a gun, your background is run at the store, you take your gun home. Can't carry it around, but you can own it. Not in Massachusetts. You got to go that other step. where you have to have some sort of weird permit just to own it, even if it never leaves your home. I had no idea until this case. So definitely follow Sarande on X. Sarande, if you get a chance, post your X. And you got to hear her story. I covered some of this a few weeks ago. It's crazy. Same thing here in New York. Dexter Taylor, I've had him on many, many times. And he got the SWAT team stormed in, and he was he's a tinkerer, and he was basically building his own guns as a hobby. Everything legally purchased, none of the 3D printing nonsense, everything through the ATF. And he was arrested by local city police. Okay. Now he's in Rikers, not Rikers. Now he's up in Coxsackie, up north, for a 10-year sentence. He's fighting a 10-year sentence. Okay. The man is, in his 40s. He's, very, assembling guns. He was actually trying to come up with a new system to help the police. That's the crazy part. He never broke a law. And what happened in his court case is the judge, George Darkeh, Darkeh, said, when his lawyer brought up the Second Amendment, the judge in New York said, the Second Amendment doesn't exist in my courtroom. So you see a lot of really bad things happening. Of course, they want to remove the guns, because if you remove the guns, then you control the people. So yeah, Sarande, I'm so glad you're on here. Definitely, we'll have to have you on so we can see what's going on and get an update from you. And I am still investigating those police, because the cop that arrested Sarande's fiance was from Uganda just 3 years ago. Now he's a cop. I couldn't believe it. We'll get into, I don't want to go off the rails too much on that, but that's a crazy story, and I'm still looking into it. And Sarande, by the way, I want to tell you that I think there's like 3 different versions of this guy, because I found the same profile attached to 3 guys that look totally different from each other, but they also list as being part of that police department with the same name. So we'll definitely talk about that. That's crazy. Don't forget, in Maine, you had a cop too from illegally here who got a gun and a badge in Maine. So Maine, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, you kind of see the pattern. So welcome. Jesus, sorry. Okay. Daisy M, welcome. Sometimes I feel like I'm living in a novel based in 1930s. It feels like Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. It seems like it's going there fast. So I hear you. Fiance, covered that one. All right. I'm a big fan of constitutional carry. We are pushing for it here in North Carolina. Well, you got like a bunch of DSA candidates in North Carolina, Dallas, and what they like to do is they start at the local level. So keep an eye on them. Go to that DSA website. And look, what I encourage people to do is go to these virtual meetings and get things, get intel so you could see what they're really doing. Because when you see their commercials, they look like a bunch of happy kind of, we don't take them seriously, right? We're like, oh, these stupid blue-haired people. Well, they took New York City. We got to take that seriously. Okay, we have to. And I can't imagine fighting any war. And I'm a combat veteran. I was in for 11 years. I can't, and I was in the intelligence field. I can't imagine going into battle and not knowing anything about my enemy, or deploying and not knowing anything about the enemy we're fighting. It makes no sense. Yet so many people don't study the enemy, like really study the enemy. And look, by the way, I ain't worried about Bill Gates coming and knocking on my door. I'm not worried about Mossad coming and knocking on my door. I'm worried about these kids taking government, knocking on my door and saying, get the F out. We own this now. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about community policing, where someone's holding a gun to my head and they send an untrained some person that took a 6-week course in psychology to try to mitigate the situation. Like, that's what I'm worried about. All this other nonsense, I'm not worried about that. And it's not just because I'm in the city. It's in the suburbs. It's in the rural areas. We've experienced it all. Okay. And I'm not just sitting behind a desk. The reason why I miss my deadlines on this show, and the reason I'm not on as much as I want to, because I'm doing the work. And I, like all of you, I have a job too. I'm working with consumer diligence to stop the scams, because not every enemy is an intentional enemy. Scam artists are a big enemy too. Okay, because if you get scammed out of your money, you you don't have anything to fight with. Okay, you don't have, and that's why I think the work as consumer due diligence is super important. And on that note, Dallas gave me some statistics, so let me just pull this up. Really interesting statistics. So here is the consumer diligence Substack here. Okay, and you could see that the Dollar General one is crazy. You have to read that. But yeah, you just go to consumerdiligence.substack.com and go ahead and, if you can afford to, please do a paid subscription. The only way these investigators and writers get paid is through the subscriptions that come through the Substack. Okay, but this is incredible. But he gave me some statistics, and we're focused on scams because sometimes, refresh it, he said. Okay. Oh, there we go. Oh, nice. Okay, so the latest, yeah, check this out. This is crazy. America's $12.5 billion heist, part one of our national fraud investigation, when trust becomes the criminal's greatest weapon. Okay, I'm just going to read the executive summary right here provided. And then the rest is behind the paywall. But definitely, like, these guys are going deep. The Dollar General one's crazy. There's one on like 3 on All Family Pharmacy, which is being promoted by like pretty significant people in right-wing politics. You should read those stories about them. And yeah, and there's more to come. Executive summary: in 2024, American consumers lost a record-shattering $12.5 billion with a B to fraud, a 25% surge from the previous year that signals a new era of criminal sophistication and lethality. This wasn't a wave of more attacks, but a crisis of efficiency. Criminals successfully extracted money in 38% of reported incidents, up from just 27% in 2023. Two dominant threats drove the devastation. Investment scams siphoned $5.7 billion through elaborate cryptocurrency and precious metals schemes, often beginning as innocent social media conversations and culminating in life-altering losses. Impersonation fraud stole $2.95 billion by exploiting authority and trust, with criminals posing as government agents, tech support, and romantic interests. The demographic reality is stark. Younger adults report fraud more frequently, but when seniors fall victim, the financial consequences are catastrophic, with median losses up to 4 times higher. This installment exposes the scope of a crisis that has transformed from the individual tragedies into a systemic national emergency. Definitely check this out on Consumer Diligence. I will put the thing right there for you. It's an amazing group. I'm one of them, and but I didn't write this one, so I'm looking forward to reading this. And everyone, we get our leads from you. And we're not concerned about what deep state thing is going on. We're concerned about that's happening now. That's more of an acute danger to you than anything else if you're one of those victims. And when I was a PI, Dallas, I don't know if you know this, but when I was a PI, I did so many of these dating fraud cases. And you're right, it was always the elderly, and it was crazy. There was a retired lieutenant colonel from the Air Force. She became a client of mine. She had given away over $300,000, $400,000 from her retirement to a guy she'd never met. And I've seen these scams, and it's like I could see where people, especially people who are very isolated, people that travel a lot, or just old people that live alone, they get sucked into these things. They get sucked into them big time because these scammers have figured out how to really tug on the heartstrings. It's pretty darkly amazing. But yeah, and I told her, I said, look, I I can maybe find out who the person is. That money's gone, and it's not just one person. It's gangs. Okay, and if you want to, I mean, if you want to topple a country quickly, let's say I was China, and China, I do know wants to topple this country quickly. I would be not arresting scam artists that are scamming the United States. There's big stories coming out of like Cambodia and stuff too about like they kidnap people um, and enslave them as scam artists. That's the crazy part. This is a big story in Dallas. I'm glad you guys over there at Consumer Diligence are covering it. Please support Dallas and the whole team. Not me. I'm the, I don't, I just donate my time and my energy. So mine's voluntary, but there's a lot of people that are working over there because A, they either got scammed or B, someone close to them did. So support them by getting a paid subscription. We really appreciate it. Looking forward to getting you on, Dallas, and talking about this more. By the way, we are looking for writers over there. So send your resumes to leads@consumerdiligence.org. Okay. Thanks for sharing that, Dallas. So there we are with that. So keep that in mind, like your body, the gut health, everything, and the scams. Okay. Precious metal scams too is a big one. We actually had a company try to sell their precious metals on Daily Clout. And I tell the story a lot. And, the marketing guy says, "Hey, Brian, can you do this ad read?" And I'm like, "Well, let me take a look at it first." And I'm like, "I'm not going to read this." like, there's no way. What is this company? And it was such a cheesy name. It was just overly patriotic. But one of the key things, and I'll have to get Dallas on here so he could give you guys some good tips. One of the key things was there's nothing in the About Us page. Like there's no officers, there's no CEO, nothing like that. That doesn't necessarily mean something's a scam, but it certainly is the first place I look. And then you're looking for like licenses. Like there are no license numbers. Every investment type firm has to have some sort of a broker's license. Couldn't find that. Then I couldn't find any of the employees on LinkedIn or anywhere on the internet. The only thing I found was the little dude in the video was the guy that built the website, but he's posing as a broker. Okay, now then it went on and on. Then I found out the senior vice president. I finally found him. I found him in the Florida criminal records. He'd been arrested for severe, like I guess, domestic abuse of his family, and was listed as indigent in his criminal record, meaning he couldn't afford a lawyer. And this guy's advising precious metals investment. It's horrible. I said, "No, I'm not going to read this." And I want this nowhere near. Investigate everything, and we will be doing a story about this particular company. Even though I promised I wouldn't, I'm going to have to break that promise because it just pisses me off thinking about it. Not only did they put the reputations of me, my wife, and all the contributors at Daily Cloud at risk had those ads gone out, but they are using and abusing the trust that people have in us to scam like the elderly mainly by putting a bunch of American eagles and American flags all over their website and trying to sell it through the emotions. It's like, show me the money, show me the facts, show me the license. Oh, and by the way, the LLC had been dissolved 2 years earlier too. So that's what you have to look out for. And we know you don't have a lot of time to do that. That's why we started Consumer Diligence. So you could go there. Hopefully we get more and more stories out there. So you can go there as a resource. So you can go there and, check if a company falls under that. So it's taking time because everyone has day jobs, but the more people can support us, the more we can support you with transparency. And trust me, these kind of type of reports, the amount of money that M&A firms used to pay for these, it's huge. So this is a really, really good service that is being done over there. And one company that I have actually checked out and they are totally on the up and up is our other sponsor. And that other sponsor, once I could pull down this other banner. Sorry, guys. There, get rid of that. And then, all right. There we go. So you see floating along the bottom there is um, our other sponsor, which is, a gold company. Okay, so which gold company? It's American Alternative Assets. Okay, American Alternative Assets is really one of these really good precious metals companies and many other things. You should definitely check them out. Let me show you their website. I have investigating them thoroughly, so you could take some comfort in it. Let me just share that screen so you can see who they are. And you want to go to clout.com, cloutgold.com, or call them at 855-803-GOLD. Um, and that's, I guess, I don't know. I'm proud to say what's nice is I do check out everything, because if I'm investigate everything, like my title says, and I don't investigate everything, what good am I? Okay, so I've done it for you, but check it out yourself, of course. But if you go to Clout Gold, it will redirect to American Alternative Assets, and these reports are worth getting. Okay, when they say sign up to get these free reports, they're not going to spam you. Okay, they're you actually get a really good learning document, even if you don't invest with them. It's a free report. It's actually a free report, and it's worth your time to read it. Because if you're only focused on the interesting stuff, like in any war, and you don't pay attention to economics, you're going to defend against these enemies here. Meanwhile, your house is your own life will collapse. And gold has gone to like north of 4,000 in like 3 years. I wish I bought it like 10 years ago, but definitely sign up and get this free report, and just read it and tell me what you think. And a lot of times when I read these too, I always learn so much about what's going on. I'm like, oh man, I didn't even know that. Like, for instance, I didn't even know that Ghana is one of the biggest gold producers in Africa, or the biggest gold producer in Africa. Remember, Ghana is where the mayor of Los Angeles went right before the fires. But pay attention to what's going on there. But yeah, definitely sign up, get this free report. They'll call you, or they'll say how you want to be contacted. These guys really honor it. So really, really proud to have these as a sponsor. And again, you just want to go to Clout Gold to get your free report and sign up, and hey, let them know that you heard about it on Investigate Everything. I sing these people's praises, so can't go wrong. So again, that is cloutgold.com, or just call them at 855-803-4653. All right. Where are we? So we got a couple more things to run through here. All right. Sorry, my face is so big. They have this on the platform we use. They have this standard thing, like layout that I can't erase, so it always defaults. So it's very annoying. Maybe someone who uses StreamYard can show me how to get rid of it. Okay, so I was talking earlier about what's going on with the Democratic Socialists of America, and how they're getting the young people. Now, I want to point out another thing about DSA. They're connected to a lot of different groups, and we're not going to go through it all today because, well, I think I have to drive to Massachusetts in a couple hours here, but they're connected to so many different groups. So what happens is you have DSA is definitely not the core group, okay? But they're a political party. Then you have the Working Families Party, WFP. All right. And what ends up happening is they all will make their own like chapters, but then they name them different things. So it doesn't seem like one big cabal, right? But it is. And their goals are very simple here. Let me tell you, their latest campaign will blow your mind. Let me see if I can pull it up really quickly. And the point I'm about to make here is that, again, I want you to, these kids aren't acting, okay? Like, I do want you to see what I'm talking about. Like, these kids are excited to be part of this. And this is a weird, in my opinion, this is a very weird video. If I could find it. Hold on, give me a second. Let me get there. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, this will blow your mind. So I pulled this off the DSA site. Let me open that. Hopefully it has sound. Okay. I don't know if that one does. Okay, I got to find the one that has sound, because with Macs, apparently, you can't just record the screen. You have to download a bunch of stuff, and I may have done it incorrectly, but let me get rid of that guy. I do have it. And if not, I'll just go to their, all right, screen recording, 4 p.m., 6 p.m. Let's see if this one does it. Yep. Yeah, this will blow your mind. Watch this. I'm going to make this full screen, actually. All right, so this is from the DSA website. There we go. All right. But listen to what they're saying here. And these people are like, yeah. Damn it. Why isn't it working? All right, let me go. I'm sorry, guys. Let me go to the website. I'll just pull it up there. Give me a second. But you've got to see this. Their latest, there's my big head. Their latest campaign is, I think it's called Socialist Cash to Take Out Capitalist Trash. Let me see. Democratic. Socialists of America. There we go. Pull this up for you just a second. All right. Yeah. I'm not going to put you through all that, but well, let me share this. You got to see the website too, because it's important to understand the website, but it's like this is normalized. Okay, this is normal. Okay, so here it is. And by the way, they've set up like a ton of new chapters in just a week. And then every meeting I tried to sign up for, like especially the physical meetings, you can't get into. They're already sold out. So this is their website. Join, and you see, and they also have like really good social media, and it's very well organized. And people say, yeah, that's because they have a lot of money, and there's a lot of money on the conservative side too. So I'm not sure what we're doing, okay, with that money, but this is like everywhere. You walk down the streets in a lot of these major cities, and you see nothing but this, and they are totally dedicated. Let me go to the Instagram. Stop sharing. I got to show you this video though. All right. Oh, God, that stupid thing. There we go. All right. Let me see. Pull it up here. Sorry about the sound, guys. Apparently, I have to download something. Is this it? Let me get to the, No, don't tell me it's gone. All right. Oh, you know what? It's on their YouTube. I apologize. Give me just a second here. Okay. USA.org. Find their YouTube. There it is. All right, we're getting there. Okay. All right, so this is their YouTube channel, but this like latest like little campaign they have, just I don't know, man. This is like the creepiest video. Here we go. Okay, you ready? Yeah. Socialist cash takes out capitalist trash. This went up like right after Mamdani got elected.
National Electoral Commission launched a bold new campaign to fundraise for our nationally endorsed candidates. Socialist cash takes out capitalist trash. We've now reached over $65,000 in fundraising, crushing our initial goal of $50,000. Thanks to our DSA members, we've helped send Alex Brown to Milwaukee City Council, Denzel Campbell to Detroit City Council, and myself, Jorge DPD, and Hannah Schlepp to Ithaca County Council.
But we're not done yet. We've now set a new goal of raising $100K for socialists running for office around the country by the end of this year. in any seat first. Our candidates are committed to representing DSA's deepest values and working with the organization to build a better future.
Our candidates are incredible fighters for the working class, championing rent stabilization, higher wages, public transit, immigrant justice, Palestine solidarity, and much more. But that also means our opposition is coming out strong and money is pouring in against our slate. So we are going to need your support to take out the capitalist trash. Support our slate right now with some socialist cash at dsausa.us/slate-donate. Thank you so much.
This year, our National Electoral
Right.
Commission launched
So
a bold new
you get the idea. Now, what I want to point out about that video is, does anyone in that video seem inauthentic to you? Like, they seem really excited to be part of this. And I've seen them in person. You probably seen them too if you take the time to talk to them. They're pretty excited. And every young person I talk to, I'm like, why are you voting for Mamdani? And they're like, well, who else am I going to vote for? Like, no one else is reaching out to me. I'm not going to vote for Cuomo, and I don't, know who Sliwa is. So, I mean, that was the major things here, is the connection. And we had that for a brief moment in conservative circles. I think we're losing it. I think we need to get it back. Otherwise, we are going to lose this country to socialists. And it's not even going to be through fraud. It's going to be through the fact that there's a big voting block of people that I just don't think conservatives are doing a good job paying attention to. And now, in my opinion, with the death of Charlie Kirk, that should have unified us, and that did unify us for a brief moment. But now look where we are. Now it's who killed Charlie Kirk is the conversation. Meanwhile, these people here, these socialists, are marching forward. And who killed Charlie Kirk, and Nick Fuentes is bad, and Tucker's bad, and this person's bad, and that person, who cares? They're not stopping. Okay, they're not stopping, and it's not just young people either. Just last night, I won't play the whole thing, but just last night, I hopped on a workers' family party. Now, let me show you them. These are another old school party, but they are very, very, they fuel volunteers and not funds, but people into movements like DSA. So they're closely aligned with them. Okay, they're not as big as DSA, and DSA is not that big. You see, they're raising 100,000 for candidates across. Their currency is getting people to do things for free. Okay, it was to get people to do things for free. I'm not even going to put up these comments like the haters found me about Charlie Kirk, so I'm not even going to entertain that. That's stupid. All right, so workers' family party. I don't normally do a daytime show, so it's to be expected. Workers. There it is. All right, so this is the workers' family party here. All right, make this screen a little bigger here. Nope. There we go. I guess that's what we're stuck with. Okay, so this is the workers' family party. Pretty much the same thing. Okay, but you see, they backed the candidate too. You saw that they were one of the backers of Mamdani. So when you have all these organizations working together in lockstep as they are, we had better do something. Okay, we had better do something because it's kind of unstoppable if you let it go too long, because it becomes more than elections. It becomes a way of thinking, and you could see that with a lot of these young people already. Okay, and people say, "Oh, that's in the cities. It doesn't matter." Well, yeah, it does matter, because look at the population density in the cities like LA and New York compared to the rest of their states. It certainly matters. It matters so much that we could lose several congressional seats in the midterms because of Prop 50 passed over there in California. Okay, and that's all that voting comes out of these density centers, whether they're cheating or not. Even if they weren't cheating, there's such density of people that are totally, I would say, beyond liberal. I'd say socialist minded. Uh, they're going to vote for these things that affect the rest of the state, and in some cases, like Prop 50, can affect the power balance in Congress. So that's why you have to take the cities seriously, because they control, redistricting and how votes go and how many seats in Congress a state has. And if the majority of the population is in New York City for New York State, which it is, you better care about what's going on in New York City and Los Angeles and these big cities, because it matters. Okay, it does matter, and it does affect you. So this is the Workers' Family Party. Now, I'm not going to play this whole thing. I'm going to play a little of this because it's long and it's kind of boring. But this is your typical, what I'm about to play is, this is your typical meeting. Like, this is like every week. And it's typical. And it's not like scary like my opening. Like, for the people who are backing or part of these groups, they're literally, to me, it reminded me of a tenant meeting. Okay, it's just a thing they do every single day. Okay, and they don't stop, and they're not really. I mean, there's some, they always say mean things about Republicans, but it's very clear that a lot of them probably have rarely met a Republican, because they have a very stereotyped example of what a Trump voter is, just like we do, a lot of people do, of what a liberal is. But if you, what I want you to get out of this is it's just like a tenant meeting, like an HOA meeting, except it's politics. So let me just play some of this. I do not know what's going on with the sound. This sucks. So basically, this meeting went on. I don't know why there's no sound. Yeah, I don't know. All right. Well, sorry, guys. That's really weird. I got to figure. It's a Mac, so I don't really know why that's not working. Yeah. Anyways, I'll figure that out. But anyways, the point is, they go on, and very boring. But they attend, and they always have the virtual meeting set up, and they meet even if there's nothing to meet about. So everyone is in that. It's part of their life, is meeting and going out to rallies and everything. It's part of the culture. Whereas our culture is less so. And Dallas made a good point before the show. We were talking, and he said, we need to be out there rallying against illegal immigration. We need to be out there forming political parties at the local level to he said it better than I did. He's a good writer, but basically to show the presence. Because if he made a great point, if you look on the news, you look on the street. Yes, I know there's a lot of people that go out there, like Patriot Rob in the crowd. They're like going out. They're doing great work. Moms for Liberty, they're doing great work, and they started with nothing. I go out alone. Naomi goes out. We all do something. So I'm not saying no one's not doing anything. What I am saying is, it needs to get organized, and it needs to be a force. And every time there's a protest from the left, there should be a counter protest for our values, because they're out there with their signs, and they're out there, and they're not losing people. They might have lost congressional seats on the left, but they're gaining ground, grassroots support. And I'm seeing it everywhere. They just sign up for these, like any of these. Use a fake email if you want to. It's hard to get into meetings now. That's how many people are joining in. And look, I think a big part of the problem is, again, these petty squabbles on conservative audiences. Because you're allowed to talk about whatever you want, right? I'm not going to tell anyone what to talk about, but how can you not see what's going on? Like, for just take a day off and look at what's going on with local elections, right down to like school boards or dog catchers. Like in Salem, they actually have dog catchers. They're all getting taken by socialists. And that's where we should be right now, because I got to say, these people, they're taking this seriously. I would say the majority of our public-facing people are not. And that's why we're going to lose. And we're going to lose big if we don't get it together. Because think about if you're a 20-something or you're new to social media and you got your choice, okay? You got the left or the right. You go to the left, you're like, oh, it's kind of cheesy. I don't really like it. You go to blue sky, you're going to be terrified. You're going to be like, okay, these people are murderous, homicidal maniacs, the left. But then what's going to happen? You know, you're going to go on to X. And what are you going to see? Bickering between people you might not know anything about, but you're going to see very few things about political issues that matter at the grassroots level. We have to get back to that if we're ever there. We have to get back to that precinct strategy because they're there already and they're way ahead of us. We were on the way. I don't know what happened. Okay. But it's right now we're wasting time. We're going to lose. We're going to lose. We saw this. It's like in these Brooklyn, these Brooklyn races that we were a part of. These candidates were busting their asses, putting out videos, knocking on doors. They had no higher support from an organization above them, and they should have, because they're Republicans, and they didn't. But these people do, and that's how they're going to win. And with the kind of sentiment that you see across the city, now granted, I didn't talk to all 1 million voters for Mamdani, of course. I think a lot of them were illegal aliens, of course. But even without the illegal aliens, I still think they may have won because no one else has messaging in New York City anyways. And we have got to get on it. Like, we have got to get organized. We have got to be the Roman legion versus the barbarians. I mean, that's how we got Trump back in. We got organized. We're falling into disarray and distractions. Yes, I understand that, the Epstein files are important to a lot of people, but they shouldn't be your primary focus if you want to keep this country. Yes, I know a lot of people think that Israel's controlling apparently the world. It's idiotic, but there's no proof to support that. But I mean, how does that affect your local elections? Okay. How does that affect your zoning? How would you know unless you're part of it? Okay. That's the thing. These things people focus on. It's just, and it's a free country. Focus on whatever you want, but don't be crying all over social media when we lose, because it's going to happen. I don't care what anyone says, it's going to happen. We're not going to lose to the Democrats. We're going to lose to the socialists. Democratic Party, they're in trouble. They might not exist. And it's not going to be because the Republicans took them out. It's going to be because the socialists took them out. And the socialists have made it clear they want them out. Okay. So, and by that, I mean this. Okay. I'll just put her on the stage. I don't care. I don't know. You might not get any sound. All right, let me remove that. Okay, I see. You can't have more than, got it. Okay, will this work now?
Where can people watch this film? How long is it? Where can people watch it?
This film is 49 minutes long. It is on the Gray Zone. The Gray Zone thankfully distributed it. Max Blumenthal took a chance on this film and put it out on his platform, and I'm very grateful to him to have done that.
Yep, Max is great. Well, we do have the link down below to the film, so people can check out the full thing and get to know this organization and what they're really about. I think it's important for people to know how extreme a lot of the viewpoints actually are. I think a lot of people, when they're thinking about the Israel-Palestinian conflict, they'll just say, well, the only reason why the Israelis are like that is because the Palestinians want to kill them all. If it weren't for those Palestinian terrorists, then there would be no problems. And there's quite a few people who have that viewpoint where they just think.
Yeah. Okay. Look, the point of me playing this Kim Iverson video is so she's on Rumble. I'm sure she's considered a one of the more prominent conservative quotes. But I've kind of watched a pattern with her, and there's a lot of people like this. It starts with questioning certain things, like, well, okay, let me just focus on her. Like, and I've heard this, like when I was, during the pandemic, whatever you want to call it, I would get attacked, not by her, but people with the same mindset, where they'd say, "Oh, you're just shilling for, the WEF by blaming things on China." It's like, no, I always bring my receipts. But there's this one thing that I've noticed about her and her show is it seems to be very anti-American. Now, I'm not just saying anti-Trump. I'm saying anti-American. Okay, every other country is misunderstood. I'm paraphrasing, but like I even saw her kind of defend, or let me just say this: it seemed to me that she has a favorable view of people, leaders, dictators that are not, who do not have America's interests in mind. I'm being legalese careful here. But I would just say keep an eye on these things, because I'm noticing more and more on Rumble, which is conservative. There's a lot of this going on. Okay, now who's Max Blumenthal? I'm not going to get into that right now. Just look him up. Look him up. Max Blumenthal has been on so many conservative podcasts lately since October 7th. But look up Max Blumenthal's background. And I will say the gray zone seems like it has a lot of funding coming out of the UK. And I haven't connected it to Jeremy Corbyn, but Jeremy Corbyn in the UK is forming a new party, which will be anti-Israel, but is pro-Islam or pro-Muslim countries. Okay, now I'm not saying there's anything there. I haven't done the research. I am saying I'm noticing a pattern, and it's something to keep an eye on. If you feel a certain way about a certain issue, but you haven't researched it, but you feel very emotional about it, but you haven't researched it, you really got to second guess yourself and do some research, because that means typically means you're being manipulated. I would know. That was my job for a long time in the deep, dark world of intelligence, was manipulating populations. Okay, so propaganda. So the thing is, really, like, compare all these. For instance, if you look at one of the prominent Charlie Kirk theories on who his assassin was, and God rest his soul, and there's one that everyone seems to be parroting that seems to have originated with Max Blumenthal. So check him out. Check him out. He's definitely not a conservative. Seems to be more of an anarchist / he seems like he'd be the type voting for Mamdani. Let's just put it that way. So check it out. I'm being careful not to slander anyone, but yeah. And so what I'm saying is, not only do you have to worry about, like, these different parties, but you also have to worry about who's distracting you, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. Who is distracting you? What conversations are distracting you? Because you have to take it. Okay, I'm not going to say you have to, because I was just complaining about people telling me what to do. I recommend, okay, in my own life, when I'm assessing a threat, the things that I'm assessing are, what can I not live without? I can't live without a house. I can't live without money. I can't live without food. I can't live without shelter, and the basic needs. What is the most acute threat to those things right now? Okay. Right now. And that's what I focus my time on. Okay. You can focus your time on whatever you want. I hope you have abundance of it. God bless you for that. But what I'm saying is, I like actionable intelligence. I want to know who can affect those basic needs that I have right now. If I have time, great. I'll look into, this famous thing or that. I love a true crime as much as anyone, but is that going to affect your liberty? Is that going to affect your way of life? Finding out or not finding out? Probably not. Is it going to affect your liberty and your way of life if groups like DSA take more and more cities, which eventually means they'll take more and more states? Yes, it will. Okay. So go forth and do as you please. But what I am saying is, My opinion, these type of things are distractions. This kid, by the way, seems like he's a real left-wing guy. You know, that's his deal. But he went after Bitar. And what's funny is Bitar is kind of like a Israeli group. I guess I don't know much about them. I kind of looked at them before I played this video. But it's really interesting because like there's a point here that I'll play where, you know, Kim Iverson seems like she's trying to lead it to be something darker than it is. Okay. They make it very clear. What I know from their website is like, hey, you know, we're defending Jewish people. Good. They should. I'd like to defend my own people. And if there were enough O'Sheas, I'd have an O'Shea group that defends O'Sheas. You know, just lots of groups like that. I'm not saying they're good or bad. I don't know much about them. But you could tell, like, this kid basically went to a meeting. He said it was undercover, but they let him bring a camera. So I don't know how undercover it was. I think they knew exactly who he was. And it sounds like to me, they had nothing to hide, because why else would you let a documentary filmmaker have free access to your group? But watch her try to steer it towards something darker. And his response is hilarious. I don't think it's what she expected, but watch.
It's all Palestinians' fault and that they're the aggressive ones, they're the harassers, they're the problem. But they see a film like this and it maybe will help shift their worldview a bit and to realize, no, it isn't just one side can't live alongside the other. There's a lot more to this, and there's extremists on the Jewish side as well. And that's, you know, I think that's not showcased much. And it's good that you took the risk and that you decided to showcase this. Have you had any sort of consequences because of this?
No. Nothing has happened to me. No, I don't think anything will happen to me.
Yeah. So he goes on. I'll post the link. So I only show things out of context because I only have so much time. And it looks like my internet is failing somehow. Has the Mamdani socialist control of the internet begun? Anyways, guys, I could go on all day. Those who are new to the show, thanks for joining me. I'd like to say that it's usually more structured than this, but it's not. I get a bunch of stuff in my head and I talk to you about it, and I enjoy your comments. I learn from you, and I hope you learn from me. I'm just putting out leads. So maybe someday I'll have a tighter show. But really my whole intent in getting on here is to share with you what I've researched. I'll give you my opinion, but you always know it's my opinion, and talk about what's going on and what I'm looking at. So thank you for everyone who's new here. And I'm not going to be able to take any more comments because I don't know what the hell's going on here, but so I'm going to call it right there, and I will talk to you all soon. But this has been Brian O'Shea with Investigate Everything, and I can't wait to get back to my studio and get my big computer up again. But my first time on a Mac, not liking it. All right, so you guys have a great day, and thanks for joining me, and I will talk to you very, very soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. Get out there and organize something. And let's get organized, and let's all agree on what are the most important things that we need to fight for. Everything else should just be a hobby. It's been Brian O'Shea with Investigate Everything.